want to welcome all the members. Let me remind the people in the audience that we have expanded the membership of the state P-16 Council, and let me introduce from our last meeting, Cesar Maldonado from Harlingen, who's a business and economic development representative on the statewide council. We have representative for Terry today. This is not Terry Murphy.
No, my name is Larry Lottman, L-O-T-T-M-A-N-N.
Representing Terry Murphy, and of course Larry Temple, and then this is the first meeting that's been attended by another new member of the P-16 Council, President Greg Williams of Odessa College. Welcome. And we have another representative for a new member. As those of you in the audience may recall, we have a new member, Melody Johnson, who's the superintendent of schools in Fort Worth. At the last minute, she was unable to attend, and we have a representative, please.
Good afternoon, Margaret Bellenbrown.
Thank you very much. As I said a moment ago, I just got back from Laredo. We had actually a very exciting meeting this morning in Laredo. The South Texas P-16 collaboration or collaborative for educational excellence met at Texas A&M International University in Laredo this morning. We had an audience of 250, 300 people, superintendents, business leaders, representatives of local community colleges, the president of Texas A&M International. The meeting was organized by Senator Zaffarini, and it was really exciting to see all the enthusiasm for addressing P-16 concerns at the local level. And Commissioner Scott and I were at the meeting this morning. Commissioner Scott will not be here today. He is attending the second half of the meeting of the Commission on College Ready Texas, which is been meeting all day today. It's the last formal meeting of that group, and so he and I are splitting duty today, one of us here and one of us there. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for coming to this meeting. We have some important issues to take a look at. As all of you know, the broader context is the continuing discussion that we're having about college readiness standards. The college readiness standards, you'll hear more about this in a moment, have been posted on the Higher Education Coordinating Board website. We've already received over 50,000 downloads of those standards, so clearly there's a lot of interest in this activity, and as I said, you'll hear more about it in a moment. Let me move to agenda item 2, which is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. And if there is a motion to approve in a second, we'll take a vote. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Approve. Second.
Is there any discussion about the minutes, any corrections? If not, then we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of approving? Aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. Let's go back to let's move to agenda item 4, an update from standing P-16 council members. Typically we give every council member an opportunity to update us on developments in their particular area of interest and responsibility. Shall we start, Cesar?
Yes, good afternoon. I've spent some time in dialogue with Larry in putting together a business group, expanding the base that he's been working from, and brings in people from various parts of the state and various disciplines, and we're making some progress on that. Other than that, I've been spending time keeping up or catching up with the volumes of information that you've been very gracious enough to send to me.
Did I detect a slight trace of sarcasm there?
It's very interesting reading, and that's the extent of my report. Thank you.
Do you have any reports on behalf of DARs?
Sure. My commissioner, Terry Murphy, refers to us as Darshans. I don't know if that's...
I like that, Darshans.
Yeah. One of the most exciting things that I've been directly involved in is related to Larry Temple's folks over at the Workforce Commission. There is a limited program called the Disability Navigator Program, and of the 28 local workforce development boards, 14 of them have disability navigators. And those are folks that don't necessarily do hands-on, but it's kind of a train-the-trainer model, and it's to make those staff members at the workforce centers much more familiar with disability issues and how to assist someone that comes to the center to access those services. Our Division for Rehabilitation Services has in the last year, and I'm not sure if Commissioner Murphy has reported this, has in the last year added an extra 100 transition counselors, and those are vocational rehabilitation counselors that actually get into the schools and work with students with disabilities through the ARD process and through that transition planning process. And that's been a long time coming. 10 years ago, that was kind of my area to work with a transition program. And it was weak. And I'm not saying it was just us, but I think we're building much better relationships with schools, particularly high schools, and getting in there and kind of slugging it out in the school transition to work program. And finally, Commissioner asked me to express some thanks to Dr. Weber at Texas State University. That group has been allowed our staff to work particularly with the distributive and developmental education programs as the curriculum is developed, and that's a real inroad for us, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. Greg, you're new. Have you got anything you would like to tell the group about what's going on the community college front?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me. Good to be here. Thank you for allowing me to serve and to represent the many colleges in Texas in terms of perspective. But what we're focusing on now, and I think we're starting to transition in terms of our thinking, and I know that you're doing this at the coordinating board as well, but we're starting to focus on success. We realize that success is very important. In the past, the issue has been enrollments, and we realize now, and we have for a while, that success is critical, and we have to do more and more. And everyone's aware and familiar with concurrent enrollment or dual credit enrollments. But I think what we're talking about at Odessa College and at other institutions is how we can have input into what our students are doing at the high school level, trying to reach down and starting to serve them, starting to identify and notify them of what's required at the college level, having our people partner with the people at the high school so that students are prepared, so that they're not shocked once they make that transition. So I think as a part of concurrent enrollment and dual credit enrollments, except with a difference, we need to start helping students with readiness, and we need to start preparing them for success. And we will have programs where we'll analyze the students, we'll work with them, and we'll also have programs where we can help them. Even if they're not in a concurrent program, we can start to offer them preparedness classes and things like that. So we're going to work on those things so that the transition becomes much easier for our students.
Has there been any discussion in your community about Odessa College establishing an early college high school?
No, we haven't talked about that, but we're open to that. We're open to a number of things. We're trying to think way outside the box in any way possible, so that's something that we might look at down the road. But anything that we can do to, we're going to pilot a few things that we'll talk about down the road, but we are open to that.
Good, good, very good. Larry, we'll turn to you. You actually, we can take care of your portion of Agenda Item 4 as well as Agenda Item 5 by having you give us an update in your area and tell us about how the Workforce Subcommittee is going.
Okay. Well, first, thank you, Raymond. The first thing, just remind everyone that We have our 11th annual workforce conference in Houston coming up next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you find yourself around the Galleria and you see a bunch of familiar faces, the workforce people going between the two hotels for our conference. I think we have about 1,500 registered now. It's a pretty good sized conference, and we'll have tracks for our board members, business board members. We'll have tracks for economic development. We'll have tracks in tying in workforce and education and training. So if you're down that way, welcome. Come by, look us up. Our challenge, we have good news, bad news. The good news is our economy is good in the state. The unemployment rate, as we released about 2 weeks ago, 4.3%. Been a long time since Texas was under the national unemployment rate. That's great news. The bad news is it's tough finding workers for employers who are also growing. We've created in the state, I think, roughly 280,000 jobs in the last 12 months. We've had continued job growth every month, and thank goodness we're seeing it across the board, not only in construction and service industry, we're also seeing it in manufacturing. But there's a lot of challenges. We're having the conversations that that you were talking about on getting this base of employers for our committee could not be more timely, I believe. And I've asked two individuals as part of our system, Bill Emhoff in the back. Bill, if you'll stand up, and Alan Miller. Bill is the chair of the Capital Area Board here in Austin, which comprises all of Travis County, and Alan is the executive director. And they're going to work with us on this committee, and they're for us, our system, they're where the rubber meets the road, where the employers basically place their job orders, and where the training is funneled through, as well as job seekers coming there looking for job openings and training as well to upgrade their skills to make them more competitive in the job market. So we are working. We've got about a dozen individuals that have expressed interest in serving on this committee. They will be across geographically diverse, as well as all of the manufacturing, petroleum, refining, service industries, allied health services. So we're going to try to get a good diverse group. And I think the first couple of meetings will be, and I will ask you to please indulge us, but actually get the respective members of your staff that can give them an update, status reports of what we're doing with the vertical alignment and the college readiness, so they'll know. I know our board, since the last year, have become much more involved at the local level in P-16s. So we're moving, I think, as a system closer to alignment with our goals than before. So that's really all we have.
Well, that sounds exciting. I should tell you that at the Laredo meeting this morning, after Commissioner Scott and I made our remarks about college readiness and some of the other issues that we were working on, Senator Zaffarini asked a couple of the local business leaders to comment on our remarks, respond to our remarks, and it was striking that they both said that they concur with the idea that college readiness and workforce readiness are the same things, that they want students better prepared when they come out of high school, whether they go into the workforce or whether they go to college. They felt very strongly that rigor, increasing levels of rigor in K through 12 and in community colleges and universities was key to economic competitiveness. And so it was gratifying to see that as we move on, there's more and more of an alignment among the interests of the different groups that are interested in educational achievement. And so I think that that adding this committee to the work of the P-16 Council is critically important for that alignment to occur still further. And Larry, we will give you all the help that you need in helping that committee get off the ground. As I mentioned, Robert Scott wasn't able to attend this meeting. He and I have had a number of conversations over the past month or so since his appointment was announced regarding the work of this P-16 Council and his attitude about a number of the issues with which that Commissioner Neely had supported during her tenure at TEA, and I have every reason to believe that Commissioner Scott will be even more aggressive in promoting notions of college readiness, of working closely with the different agencies and constituencies represented on the council. I feel very strongly that he is going to promote college readiness and the concept of a college-going culture, post-secondary education culture in all the schools of Texas. So I think that we don't have to worry about missing a beat. I think Commissioner Scott will participate on this council aggressively and will help promote the goals that we've been talking about, at least in the amount of time that I've been on the council. So that's encouraging news. Let's move on to agenda item 7 to talk about the P-16 Regional Council Workshop and the State P-16 Network. Tracy Bars, a staff member here, a program director here at the Coordinating Board, will open the discussion about these regional P-16 efforts.
Good afternoon. As the Commissioner stated, my name is Tracy Bars, and I work within the Division of Participation and Success here at the Coordinating Board. And I'm excited to report to you today about the progress that's being made by the regional P-16 councils throughout the state. And I come to you today not just with that singular purpose, but I also hope to get feedback from all of you on how the regional P-16 councils can support and align with the efforts of the state P-16 council. Next slide, please. The Coordinating Board has awarded regional P-16 councils grants to promote their development. And the purpose of the grants are to promote ownership of local issues and motivate local and regional communities to take action through a more comprehensive approach. The contract also requires that membership of the regional P-16 councils include leaders from public schools, community colleges, public or private institutions of higher education, as well as business partners who are members of local workforce boards or members of the chambers of commerce. And membership also requires that there is some representation from civic and community organizations. At least one member from every community that I described is required to attend the workshops that the Coordinating Board will host. As it states on the slide, the Coordinating Board will host a series of 3 workshops, the first which was held on October 2nd. The contract expires in August of 2008, but we've asked that all councils submit a long-range plan of June 2008. Now, this plan will demonstrate how the council has and plans to continue to implement systematic approaches to improving the educational pipeline and also creating sustainability on the local level. Next slide, please. As I stated, the Coordinating Board is currently working with 19 regional P-16 councils, 8 of which we call establishing and 11 existing. Now, the word establishing and existing are related exclusively to the time frames in which the councils have been operating. Establishing simply means that the council is younger than 12 months old, and existing means that they're older than 1 year. And initially we thought that this would be a good way to gauge where the councils are in terms of their development. But we're finding more and more that the councils are more alike than they are different across developmental lines, irrespective of when they were established. Within the contracts that were awarded, we incorporated language that encourages the regional councils to collaborate with local groups to broaden the span of P-16 council efforts. Next slide, please. This map shows the locations of P-16 councils across the state and those that are under contract currently with the coordinating board. And I will mention that all of the councils have grown out of regional and local interest in the concept of P-16, and a lot of the momentum behind this initiative started from the P-16 conference that was held on June 20th and 21st of this year. Communities are realizing that to meet the goals within public education, higher education, workforce, and the civic communities, that a sense of urgency needs to surround the effort to connect what they seem as, well, they view to be, three largely disconnected areas within their community. Next slide, please. Prior to the October 2nd workshop, coordinating board staff asked regional P-16 councils to respond to a survey that was designed to provide us with feedback that would inform the presentations for our workshops. Although the regional councils are at all different places within their development, we discovered that their needs are pretty consistent. The councils are very interested in gaining access to funding opportunities, evaluating regional data that will serve as a basis for determining their short-term and long-term goals. And they're also interested in having a venue to communicate and to share ideas and best practices. Next slide, please. After speaking with some of the council representatives, which has been an interesting process after the first workshop, across the state and evaluating what we have accomplished, we have compiled a list of suggestions for our future topics for workshops. Now, a council in a place like West Texas is going to be vastly different than one in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But they're asking to share best practices, but the key in making these types of collaborations helpful is pairing councils who have different geographic and demographic characteristics. The business and workforce representatives have really been helpful to many of the regional P-16 councils in helping them gain momentum as they begin to execute some of their initiatives. And we think it might be beneficial to facilitate a discussion at the next workshop that will help business partners share ideas and clearly define their roles in P-16 development. We also anticipate, as councils move further along in their development, that they will be able to present helpful information at the upcoming meetings. Next slide, please. Now, this is where I anticipate most of our discussion will stem from today. It's the state P-16 network. This is a development that is required as part of the regional P-16 council grants. And we have asked specifically for the existing regional councils to focus on creating the state network as part of their deliverable. The state network will promote collaboration among all P-16 regional councils, and there will be representation from each regional council on the state network. Next slide, please. Now, with that being said, I would very much like to open this up for discussion, and I know that there are many regional P-16 councils who've called and contacted me and said that they would be watching today because they're very eager to hear what the state P-16 council has in mind for what the relationship might look like between you and the different regions. So I'd like to first pose the question about what the state P-16 council anticipates the vision, or how the regional P-16 councils can align with the vision for the state council, or if you see it necessary to create one for the regional councils or the state network.
Any comments? I have one. It seems to me that that what I would like to see from regional P-16 councils is tailor-made solutions for the different regions of the state. We've been saying from the very beginning that we want to get away from an educational model which presents blanket solutions to large groups of students, and that applies within regions, and it applies across regions. We know that you made this point yourself that this is a tremendously heterogeneous state. It has different demographic characteristics. There are parts of the state that are very affluent. There are parts that are very poor. We have areas of the state where there are large populations of Hispanics, and other parts of the state where the population of Hispanics is much smaller and the population of other groups is much larger, and all those suggest different kinds of educational strategies. I think what we want to, my vision is that you would have the same set of goals, that we would want to see educational achievement occur at a level that would help us achieve the goals of closing the gaps, but that no strategy in one part of the state would be exactly the same as the educational strategy for achieving the goals of closing the gaps in another part of the state. And I would hope, as yet another component of this vision, that by developing these regional and local strategies to address educational challenges, that we come up with a comprehensive set of strategies that would address these educational challenges in virtually any kind of context or situation. So I think what the short way of putting it is we want a comprehensive educational strategy that comes together out of all the individual and regional efforts of the local and regional P-16 councils.
I think that the locals have the same challenge that we do as a messaging. There's a lot of good work being done that really, unless you're just in the education arena, you're not aware of it. I know that when we talk to members of the Workforce Board chairs and executive directors last year at our conference, and explained what things were being done to address the issues that are on their mind, developing and ensuring a pipeline of educated and skilled workers for the future, that there were some bright spots and things that they very welcomed ideas, but there's not a real good messaging network out there. And I think they need to work on that. And the second thing is obviously get them more involved, but understand that they're business people. They're not professional meeting attenders. Put them up the front of the agenda. Get their input. Use them, but remember, they're not making any money sitting there. And have meetings that are really meaningful that they can be involved in, but don't stick them at the end of a 8-hour meeting because they're not coming back. But that would just let people know who you are and what you're doing, and let us know what we can do to help get that message out as well. I tell you what, I'd love Raymond would have, to the degree that some of the local councils would like to, come up and give us some presentations, let us know some of the good work that they're doing, so that we can know what's going on, so we can help their message as well. So
we've had presentations from the El Paso Educational Collaborative, obviously, and at the coordinating board we've had presentations from El Paso, from Houston, and I think those are primarily, we've had information about San Antonio and a couple of others, but I think that's a wonderful idea that we should have a series of, maybe at every meeting of this state P-16 council, we should have a presentation by a local or regional P-16 council that describes either some significant accomplishments or some significant challenges that they would like some discussion about. That's probably one good thing. I think that's a terrific idea.
Right, and they were all very optimistic about the opportunity to come and interact with the state P-16 council. They mentioned that when they attended the October 2nd workshop, so I'm sure they'll be very happy to hear that.
Other ideas about how we might tighten this network and develop a statewide, a genuinely effective statewide network of P-16 councils?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I like I'm pleased with the fact that we're talking in terms of deliverables, because I think that's what the business community is going to buy into. When you put out the messaging that Larry talked about and put a framework in it, P-16 sounds great, the business community wants in on it, but the messaging needs to be clear that there is a deliverable at the end of the mission. There's going to be a product, the framework of a system that can be customized for different regions and for different purposes, but a consistent framework that does deliver what's needed to have a qualified workforce. And I compliment your team on putting that word deliverable in there, and I'd like to see us come up with more deliverables to filter out to the regional P-16 councils.
Additionally, I will briefly comment that I love the idea of the state P-16 council serving as an information clearinghouse, where you bring information in and you evaluate that information from the regions, plus information that's out there from all throughout this nation, other nations. If we can bring that information together and then disseminate that back to the regional councils, I think that would be one important purpose. I like the deliverables as well and the bottom line, but the information is critical, and I think if we can offer that information and make it available to the regional councils, as well as getting information from them, and I think that's important as well, because you want that grassroots effort, and you want us all to communicate one to another if we can. So I think that's important to have an informational clearinghouse.
That's another very good point, Tracy. We at our June conference, you'll recall that we had some presentations by representatives of P-16 councils. I believe one from Georgia,
Yes, sir.
and one from California. And I think that President Williams' idea about getting information about P-16 councils in other parts of the country is critical. I know there's an active one, well, in a lot of states, and we know about some of the ones that are most active. But it would certainly help our own work if we knew what other statewide P-16 councils were doing, as well as knowing more effectively what our local P-16 councils are up to.
One other thing, I'd love to know when they're meeting, where they're meeting, if I'm in that part of the
I have a communication system set up, and I will add all of the state P-16 council members. A calendar that's kept of P-16 events around the state, from regional conferences like the one that was held in West Texas on October 19th to just organizational meetings. So,
You know, that's critical, and I'm really glad you're going to do that. The only comment I was going to make is to thank you for including that map in your presentation, and I hope you don't mind if I distribute that, because I think one of our weak links is that a lot of our counselors and DART's employees don't know that they're even close to one. So thank you very much.
Tracy, one quick question. Will we have members from the coordinating board at some of those meetings?
we have
Regional meetings?
We have, and we can definitely request that. Most of the councils have been contacting me as they've been setting up their meetings, and to get more buy-in from local councils. They've been asking for people from the coordinating board, and I'm sure that they would be open and very gracious to have the opportunity to have members from your agencies and organizations attend those meetings as well, because that's how we're going to get the buy-in within the business and workforce community, in all the other sectors as well.
And I believe it adds value when the people from at the state level attend those meetings, and it adds some energy to those meetings, I think, and I believe that's important.
Can we not ask the local P-16 councils with which we're affiliated to send us regular reports about maybe copies of their minutes that we could summarize, or they could send us summaries and we could post them, and that way people could access our website and look up P-16 councils and at a glance get a sense of what all the different P-16 councils in the state are working on and what their priorities are and what kinds of successes they're having and so forth?
Yes, sir. I have a monthly conference call with all of the P-16 field specialists, and part of their responsibility in relationship to P-16 development is to attend the organizational meetings and come back and report on challenges that they've observed and best practices, so that will be available. And I will make sure that it is incorporated into the P-16 website.
Commissioner, I've got a comment.
Yes, please.
This might be a bit dated, but there's a report, a case study that was done on K-16 transition policies in 1999 from someone at Stanford University. Has any of this work gone into the beginning, the genesis of what we're working on? Has any of this been looked at?
Well, in starting, and specifically with me working on P-16 initiatives, I've worked with Dr. Paul Ruiz from the Education Trust, who has looked at as kind of one of the forefathers of P-16, and he's really been helpful at establishing kind of a framework for me to view this concept. And a lot of the literature that he's worked on and that he has studied has gone into things like the P-16 toolkit that is available to councils throughout the state of Texas, which is a procedural handbook that takes them through steps of who to invite, who are the stakeholders, how do we get them to the table, what are the important questions to ask so that we can gauge what issues are relevant to our regions. So, I mean, those types of questions are important to ask, and most of them are informed by the research that has been done. And I'm finding, since this is such a grassroots effort, a lot of what we are doing is creating, you know, new research within P-16.
Thank you.
I should say that a couple of weeks ago, my colleague from the coordinating board staff, Mark Cesario, and I were in Washington, and we met with Deputy Secretary Simon from the U.S. Department of Education, and he said that the U.S. Department of Education was likely to release an RFP in the next couple of months that would provide funding at the state level to establish both statewide and regional P-16 councils. And he was very familiar with the work that we've been doing in Texas already, and he was very encouraging about Texas being able to acquire a significant grant that would enable us to expand the network of P-16 councils, and it would enable us to build an even stronger relationship among the ones that already exist. I have one final question. I was impressed by the coverage of the state that we've developed in a short period of time, but there were some significant gaps on the map. What are we doing about encouraging the establishing of P-16 councils in regions that don't have them yet, and that for whatever reasons haven't taken a local initiative to establish them?
Well, after talking to Dr. Ruiz from the Education Trust, he suggested that the ideal P-16 model would be to have a regional council that has local reaches in communities that are further out. But there are some substantial gaps within the state, and that there aren't P-16 councils. Now, those are the ones that we have under contract, but there are others in communities such as San Angelo and Beaumont that we aren't working with. But hopefully, after this grant process, we will be able to incorporate those in the future. But those the ones on the map are just the ones that we're working with, and there's coverage statewide, and you know, monthly new councils are being developed, and there is a lot of momentum around this initiative within the state. And I anticipate shortly we'll have one, you know, within every 1 to 200 square miles of the state.
Good. Well, I think that I'd like to charge you on behalf of the council with identifying a local P-16 council that's doing some interesting work, and inviting representatives from that local council to come to our next meeting of the statewide council to make a presentation and give us an update on what they're up to. And as Lori recommended, let's regularize that and have a presentation of that type at every meeting. I think it would help all of us, particularly since these meetings are broadcast. It would allow people all over the state to come to a better understanding of what local councils are doing.
I'd like to ask the council members, are there specific topics from these local and regional councils that you would like to have showcased at the state P-16 council meetings? Because they're vastly different, or if there's, possibly at one meeting having members from the workforce side of the P-16 councils come in and report on how they're engaging in the process, or having, educator quality and how they're focusing on that, or college readiness standards? Are there any specific requests? Because I'm sure after this meeting I will receive abundance of requests to be able to come and present at the next meeting.
One that I would recommend early on would be to have reports about how the council was started. What did they do to initiate the programs, and to get involvement and participation? I think that would help other councils to move forward.
I would like to see how they're interacting with their local workforce system and working with employers, and to that degree would be most interesting to me.
I think hearing directly from employers that have been a part of it or been able to benefit from the work that's gone on would be fascinating and useful for us.
Any other comments? Sounds to me like you've got your first several presentations lined up.
Well, is there the possibility that the State Council can adopt a vision statement for the regional P-16 councils? They have individual mission statements and objectives in terms of how they will accomplish those, but is there the possibility that the State Council could adopt a vision statement that might in some way just very broadly guide the efforts of the regional councils? Because after talking with a lot of them, I really get the sense that that's what they're looking for.
Well, unless there's a comment from another member of the council, I would suggest that one way to do that, I think it's a wonderful idea. Why don't you work on a draft of a vision statement, and we will circulate it well before the next council meeting, and we'll have a discussion at the next council meeting, and presumably we would be able to adopt a vision statement at that meeting. Does that sound like a...
Yeah, I think the starting place is exactly what you said, to adopt our goals, but with the local flavor, you know, how they tailor it to their needs. I think it's kind of the crux of the whole idea of the regional concept. So.
We could work on a vision statement over the next month and send it out 6 weeks before the next board meeting, and give board members ample opportunity to take a look at it, make suggested revisions, and then incorporate those revisions into the draft that we would present to the council for final consideration. How does that sound?
That sounds good. I have one more slide. Okay, just in closing, I would like to talk just for a moment about the future of State P-16 staff support, State P-16 Council staff support in planning and presenting at future workshops. We would love the opportunity to collaborate with staff from your respective agencies and organizations in compiling information and providing the presentations at the next two workshops, and also planning and development of the State P-16 Council agendas, and development of future regional P-16 grant opportunities as they become available. So if there are no questions of me, I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. I apologize to the council for taking a couple of agenda items out of order. We had a discussion about the agenda here at the coordinating board yesterday, and we decided that there were a couple of things that we could move around and would lead to greater coherence in the agenda. So we just took care of agenda item 7, and now we'll go back to agenda item 6 and talk about the hot issue of the day, college readiness and success and the strategic action plan. I'd like to invite Evie Hyatt from the coordinating board and Sharon Jackson from TEA to come forward to talk about where you all are.
I'm not certain if your last comment means you're starting with the incoherent part of the agenda right now. My name is Evelyn Hyatt, and I am with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board working on college readiness standards.
I'm Sharon Jackson, Deputy Associate Commissioner at Texas Education Agency.
Welcome.
We're going to do a very brief presentation on where we've been so far, and then we have several areas where we really do need suggestions from all of you. First of all, a very, very, very brief overview of the whole process we use for college readiness standards. First of all, on the first slide, you'll see that the vertical teams were established in the 4 foundation areas of the Texas Public School curriculum. That's English, language arts, mathematics, science, and social sciences. The teams met 4 times. They reviewed many sets of standards. They had homework assignments, and there were numerous conference calls that took place between the chairs, the co-chairs of the committees during the period of January through August when they were working on the standards. Currently, on the current status, the Texas Coordinating Board adopted the standards to go out for public comment. We're going to talk a little bit more in a minute about how you can make public comments.
May I correct you that the Coordinating Board did not adopt the standards. It accepted the standards for distribution for public comment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the standards are organized. Our standards are a little different than any other college readiness standards you're going to see, and I have to say it's due primarily to Dr. Paredes' insistence that we have cross-discipline standards as well as the 4 subject areas of English, math, science, and social science. I think that this is going to be a very, very positive component in our standards, because when the Commission for a College Ready Texas had its meeting of workforce and business members, the things that they kept talking about were, what about those skills that cross over all the disciplines? What about reasoning? What about problem solving? What about being able to manipulate databases? And you're going to find all this in the cross-discipline standards. So I think we're well covered for both education and the business community. Each of the areas represent the knowledge and skills in a hierarchical order. And if you go to the next slide, and I have to say I don't know why I always pick ones from science, but the Roman numeral, the biology, is the key concept, and that really indicates the large organizing structure of the subject area. The second item, which is referenced by a capital letter, biochemistry, represents the organizing concepts, and these are really the primary conceptual themes that run through the key concept. The numbered headings indicate a performance expectation. It's what you would expect students to be able to do. And finally, the performance indicators provide examples of what students could demonstrate to show that they had mastered the performance expectation. And when you look through the standards, all of them are going to have these 4 components in each of the disciplines and the cross-disciplinary standards. Okay. Again, very briefly, the next steps that we're going to have are the draft standards will be reviewed, and the public comment period is from now through December 7th. We are looking for general comments from post-secondary and secondary faculty members, from organizations. We're also going to have some additional technical and expert analysis. The vertical teams are going to be taking, when you look at the next, the following steps, the vertical teams will be reviewing all of the recommendations, all the public comments, and they will be submitting their revisions to the Commissioner of Higher Ed, who will bring the revised standards to our coordinating board in January for adoption. At that time, we are hoping that they will be transmitted to the Commissioner of Education for his adoption. And according to law, the adoption of the rules is through our coordinating board and the Commissioner of Education. And then we start work on the rather difficult phase 2 and phase 3, where we really add the instructional materials, we align curriculum, and we start to start to have the professional development options. So the development of the standards is really only the first step in a very long process. Sharon, did you want to?
You did a good job.
Next, I'd like to go, and this again, and I'm looking particularly at Mr. Temple and Mr. Maldonado. We have structures in place to get public comment from faculty members and from public educators. However, we want to make certain that we have as much input as we possibly can from the community and from the business community. So we are looking to you to give us some advice and assistance in making certain that the standards get the kind of scope that we think it needs for public comment.
Go ahead.
We just have to get it in the right hands.
I'll be glad to work with you on key contacts for the various associations that I think would be very interested in doing this, business associations that I know have expressed interest to us about wanting to be involved.
Are there any particular groups that you think in particular we should be?
Manufacturing Association, the Petrochemical, trying to think, what do you engineers call yourself?
Well, there's a lot of
There's a lot of them, isn't there?
I could send you a list of the associations and societies that would be interested in having, very interested in having input.
I think TBAC would be very interested. They cross many business disciplines there.
As a part of the Texas Workforce Investment Council, there's an Apprenticeship Advisory Council as well. And I, not just wanting to be a squeaky wheel for folks with disabilities, that there are some real possibilities for folks that go to vocational and technical career paths to work through the apprenticeship programs that are available.
So the comment period is December 7th.
Up till
I'm sorry, it's December 10th. I'm sorry, December 10th.
You also might look at the tech prep associations throughout the state, consortiums throughout the state that have, they've got a strong business element in them, and I think that would be an excellent resource.
Hey, your business contacts within the community college, your customers would be great to
Advisory
look
committees.
at that. The advisory.
We have advisory committees.
You know, when you were talking earlier about the need to make certain students are college ready,
Yes.
we're looking at the preparation. These are really the documents that could provide the groundwork for that. So we are also looking forward to getting comments and continuous feedback from all of you about what materials you think you would need that we could be developing to assist you in those efforts.
And particularly in our technical programs, the advisory committees are very important, and you can have access to the key business individuals in the community and those individuals who are impacted by our product, which is our students. So I think that would be good, and a number of community colleges across the state could get you plugged in with various advisory committees based on the subject matter that you're interested in.
And Lori Rich is here, who heads up the cluster initiative in the governor's office. I think that the cluster teams that put together their recommendations would get you in touch with the heads of each one of those, would be most interested in it.
I'm assuming, Lori, that you're circulating the standards among your constituents for comment?
Haven't done it yet, but I think that I was waiting for today's meeting to conclude.
No, we encourage you to please do it.
Of course, it's on.
Yeah. And I'm also assuming that, Tracy, that you're circulating the standards to the local and regional P-16 council so that they will have an opportunity to weigh in.
We've sent emails to all of the P-16 regional councils and to the P-16 special advisors on every campus. So, I wanted to show you all how to, because I know all of you are going to go back and issue your public comments. One of the things that Dr. Paredes mentioned at the very beginning was that we've had 50,000 downloads of the standards. You know that the downloads don't necessarily translate into public comment, and that's really what we want to make certain. And I have to say that the group we're working with, the Education Policy Improvement Center, is kind of hoping that it doesn't lead to public comments. But if you go on to our webpage, you will notice that the young woman there reaching out for that mortarboard. If you click on the college readiness standards, you will go to a page that has a letter from Dr. Paredes, and if you scroll all the way down, you're going to see, you're on it, keep going. There you are. You have two options. If you click on the top one, you will come to a PDF version of the college readiness standards themselves. And that's where we've gotten all of the downloads. If you go back to that other page, and this is sort of how I get to it, you will see the public comment form. Now you have to log into the public comment form, and she does know my login. And the reason why you have to log in, we'll show you that in a moment. You'll have to put in your username and your password. Yes. And then you will see that you can continue down. That gives you the directions as to how you would go about offering your public comment. You can hit any of them. Hit social, hit science, please. I did pick the longest one. This is the introduction to the science section. So you're going to get the introductory remarks. You hit continue. And then you'll see that for every single one of the standards, there is an opportunity for you to both agree and disagree. And you are going to see this in just a moment. And by the way, all of you in your handout have this, but the pictures were very, very little, so we wanted to make certain you had the opportunity to go through it.
A username.
Excuse me?
A username for folks?
Yes, we're going to tell you how to go about making your own username.
While we're trying to make that link, I will say that the Texas Education Agency posted this link on its website yesterday, and our website is our main dissemination to all of our districts, professional organizations, and educational service centers. So that's the entire arena for public education and its communities.
I tell you, for the purpose of moving the meeting along, if you look on for the public comments, if you follow along, you'll see that for every single one of the standards, there's an opportunity for you to, here, is this it? Did it come up? No. Now, this is one of those things where none of you are going to believe it. It comes up right away when I do it on my... For each of the Roman numerals and all of the standard statements, there's an opportunity for you to both agree and disagree. And then there is, after each organizing concept, here we go. Yeah, that's fine. You'll see that for each statement you can agree or disagree. Could you please continue to scroll down? And after each of the major components, the organizing components, there's the opportunity to offer general comments about that particular standard. In some cases, people are getting together as a group. For example, a whole faculty in mathematics will get together and review the math standards, and they have comments, or they have, in some cases, alternatives that they want to offer up. in place of standards. There is a place where you can upload documents onto the website so that we can review those new documents. You'll notice that it says at the end of each of the organizing components, save or save and continue later. This is why you need to log in. If you didn't have a login, you wouldn't be able to get the work that you had done previously. Because it says continue later, if you log back in, you'll be brought right back to where you had gotten previously, and you'll be able to continue on with your review. If you go back to the first page where we logged in, if you don't have a login, you'll see, are you a new user? Click here to register, and that's where you can give the information. And you can see we get some information about the organization that you're with, whether you are applying, or not applying, but whether you're registering as an individual or you are speaking for a group. So we do ask for a little bit of information about you, but you can make up your own identifier and your own password, and that way you'll have your own account. And just as a, I don't want to say as a by the way, but today the Commission for a College Ready Texas also had their meeting, and they adopted their report. So you will be hearing an awful lot about college readiness standards, and I hope you know that we're here to assist you in any way that we can.
It's before you walk away, I wanted to say that the vertical teams and TEA and the coordinating board have worked very closely with the Commission for a College Ready Texas, and I think we've made some rather extraordinary progress in blending the two different perspectives, as well as blending different versions of college readiness standards into a more unitary document. This has not been an easy process. There are college readiness standards. How many states have college readiness standards fully developed at this point?
Well, actually, no state has college readiness standards like ours. I mean, in terms of making it where it was a mandate that they were developed.
No, I understand it, but how many have developed them? However they're used, how many actually have standards?
Yeah, I was thinking there are probably no more than 7 or 8 that really have college readiness standards. Now, of course, many more have high school standards, but not college readiness.
We've looked at the existing college readiness standards. We looked at the college readiness standards that were developed by organizations like ACT, the College Board, the American Diploma Project, and I know we looked very explicitly at Achieve and Massachusetts and so forth. So it's been a very thorough process, and we've done virtually everything we can to get this process right. And I think these drafts are quite good. They are drafts. We're not claiming any more than that. They are drafts, and they are subject to rigorous public comment. And in order for these drafts to represent the best thinking of educators and other concerned individuals around the state, we have to make absolutely certain that we do as much as we can to solicit public comment from all interested parties. And so we are going to rely very heavily on members of the council and others in the audience to get this process underway. We have to get this right. The last thing we want is to misfire on this exercise, and then within a year somebody says, well, you know, thinking back on what the vertical teams did and what the coordinating board and the Commissioner of Education approved, we think we can do a little better. And then within a couple of years, we're right back where we were. We have 4 or 5 different sets of college readiness standards circulating around the state. We have even more confusion than we've had before. It's enormously important for this to be an open process that really the people of Texas participate in.
I think it's particularly important if you have young children, because we're setting very high standards, and these are going to be a challenge for both our teachers and our students to be meeting them in the future.
Okay. Good. Are we going to talk about summer bridge programs? Is that correct?
I'm sorry. That report is still being developed, so the high school summer bridge program report will be on our next meeting of the council.
Okay. Thank you very much for that report. We will, by the next meeting of the council, we will we will distribute to all the members of the council the college readiness standards that have been adopted by the coordinating board. Remember, the process that follows is that once a coordinating board adopts its college readiness standards at its January board meeting, the standards then go to the Commissioner of Education for his approval, and then from there they go to the State Board of Education for implementation. So we've still got two steps to go. And of course the process of implementation by the State Board of Education will be several years in duration. All right, let's go to the next agenda item. Agenda item 8, review educator quality recommendations. You'll recall that some time ago we had a presentation by Marina Walden, who chaired the Committee on Educator Quality, and there were some recommendations. We need to make sure that there's a appropriate follow-up. In putting together the agenda, we thought that talking about follow-up was particularly appropriate now, because once these college readiness standards are in place, the responsibilities of teachers and educators generally will have changed dramatically. So welcome, Marina.
Thank you. I'm Marina Walden with the Institute for Public School Initiatives at the University of Texas System. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of our very large, wonderful Educator Quality Committee. I've been asked to provide a 5-minute update, I think because we have some new members of the committee.
Take a little longer. Take the time that you need. This is a critical issue.
I'm very efficient. Probably 5 will do it. Anyone who's been at my committee meetings know that I start and end on time. The most significant news is that the Educator Quality Committee report has been finalized as of August and is available on the TEA P-16 website. We'll have that information at the end of this short presentation. You can move to the next slide, who's ever doing this wonderful work. The recommendations are summarized in 3 areas: educator recruitment and selection, preparation, and retention. And in our work, we made sure that we looked carefully at a scientific research base. We framed our recommendations with accountability system, and our focus ultimately is improving student achievement results. Ken Craycraft, I put that in there just for you. The next slide, please. The committee recommends that Texas provide tools to recruit more high-quality educators to the field, particularly in shortage areas such as math and science and for underserved schools. I attended the Commission for a College Ready Texas meeting this morning, and the math vertical team leader and science vertical team leaders talked about the challenge we face with the 4x4 high school recommended program. They have a hard time finding physics teachers, and stated this morning that many of the physics courses are covered by teachers in algebra and other areas of science. So we have a significant challenge. In the report, which I encourage everyone to read because it's so good, there are specific sub-recommendations about how we might address this shortage. Next slide, please. The committee recommends that Texas require its preparation programs to provide structured quality experiences to better align with current P-12 classroom needs, create and strengthen educator leadership programs, a particular interest of mine, as I have never seen a high-quality school that didn't have a strong leader. And provide more emphasis on content knowledge and pedagogy that is tied to scientific research and clinical experience throughout the term of the program. Every presenter at the meeting this morning talked about how important it is to better prepare our teachers to instruct students in ways that helps the students meet the college readiness standards. These are very rigorous standards that have been laid out in the draft. Each vertical team leader clearly articulated that students need to acquire both content knowledge and process skills, analyzing, reasoning, communicating. Gaining knowledge, they stated, is important, but how to use that knowledge is perhaps even more important. To do this effectively will require probably some significant changes in our pre-service educator preparation programs and in professional development. And our committee will take, now that we have a draft of these standards and see how we're ratcheting things up, our committee will take a look at what recommendations we might make that are specific to preparation programs to help teachers know and be able to do what's necessary to have the students meet college readiness standards. And finally, our committee recommends that Texas enact a comprehensive strategy to retain high-quality educators through the following measures: induction, mentoring, professional growth, working learning conditions, multiple career pathways, enhanced pay and benefits. And again, under each of those categories, we have a number of specific sub-recommendations for your review. Next steps. Raymond has invited us to create a subcommittee on higher education, and as Raymond so eloquently stated in the last meeting, the quality of our higher education faculty members must also be of the highest caliber. There is, as we know what goes on in some freshman level courses, some of the students perhaps not doing as well their freshman year or dropping out may have to do with approaches that some of the higher education faculty may be taking with those students. So we need to kind of look at that and see what recommendations we can make for professional development for higher education faculty. We've also been asked to establish a working plan for the state to begin to think about how we might implement specific policies and programs addressing issues of educator quality. We now have a nice bit of time before the next legislative session, and our job is to share ideas, information with this P-16 Council so that you all might take recommendations forth for perhaps the next legislative session. This is a critical area. Having college readiness standards is great, but it won't do one bit of good unless we have educators who can, in fact, instruct students to meet those college readiness standards. Next slide, please. We really have a diverse group. Some of you I have seen in the audience today, and it's been a great working group. I'm very proud of the work that this group has done and grateful for their time and dedication. We invite any of you who are passionate about this subject to join our committee. It is open to all, and we have about 40 members, but about 20 who've been very active. And the next slide, please. The report is available at the TEA P-16 homepage, listed there, and we do encourage you to pull it down, read it, and feel free to share comments, ideas back to us. We are very grateful for your interest and comments. With that, I'd like to thank you, Raymond, in particular, for your support of this committee, and to the other members for your interest and support as well. And I am here to entertain any questions you might have or further directives for our committee.
particularly for the newer members of the council, we have several working committees. The educator quality is one of them. And at a couple of meetings ago, we determined that one of the things that we would like to do is to develop a legislative agenda for the next session. And we talked about bringing to the legislature some ideas, identifying some critical need areas, along with some recommendations about how those critical need areas could be addressed. The first issue, of course, you recall that we determined that we would like to call to the attention of the legislature was adult basic education, and that we had determined that the funding for adult basic education, which affects all of our concerns, has been languishing in Texas for many years, and it turns out that one of the reasons it had been languishing is that simply nobody had stepped forward as an effective champion of that particular area, and we determined that that was going to be one of the issues that we wanted to focus on. This issue of educator quality seems to me to be another a natural, and there are a lot of things that we can do. If you look at the lesson of programs like You Teach, which began at UT Austin, which has produced some extraordinarily capable young people to work in classrooms, or if you look at Teach for America, one of the striking qualities of both those programs is that teacher quality is heavily reliant on the basic academic accomplishments and skills of teachers themselves. And the thing that those two programs share in common is that they've attracted very high achieving students into teaching, particularly in disciplines like science and math. And one of the things that we have to figure out a way to do on a statewide basis is precisely that. So I think, for example, that the expansion of state work study programs is something we should take a look at. That if we get really bright college students, more experience working as tutors and mentors in high schools and in other learning environments, that might well spark an interest among those students in becoming teachers. One of the tremendous obstacles that we have is that undergraduates, by and large, have little exposure to the teaching profession and have little idea of how rewarding it can be, and we have to change that. And I hope that both this statewide P-16 council and local P-16 councils, and I hope you're listening, will come up with some ideas about how to address that issue. These other ideas that you have come up with are absolutely critical. What we need are practical, implementable ideas about how to achieve this. We've got some general categories here. So we need, how do we do, what precise programs, what precise activities would lead to professional growth, would lead to multiple career pathways and enhanced pay and benefits and so forth.
Well, we will be more than happy to provide those for you. Our next meeting is scheduled tentatively for January 16th, and we will begin our work anew. We kind of took a little bit of a break after a fairly arduous legislative session.
Yes.
Any other questions? Any comments from any of the committee members? Thank you for your time.
Yes. I wanted to follow up on the comment that Marina made about having the P-16 Council look at instruction and teaching in higher education. As all of you know, the governor's office has been very interested in taking a look at measuring learning outcomes as part of his incentive funding package for higher education. It's an idea that is quickly developing momentum all over the country. That particularly as the costs of higher education increase, there's more and more pressure on higher education to demonstrate that it's adding significant value to the experiences of students. The other issue that I think is a factor in taking a look at higher education instruction and learning outcomes is that we still have all over the state example after example of institutions that consciously offer weed-out courses, that departments and schools intentionally establish courses with the idea of eliminating all but the most capable students in a given discipline, a particular field, a major. We've got to move away from that model. We need to go to a model that mentors and nurtures students, that builds up their interest, or builds on their interests and on their talents, and leads to a higher level of achievement. The other issue that we need to give some attention to is that, as people involved in higher education in the room know, most people go into a classroom on either a college campus or university campus for the first time with virtually no help about how to be an effective teacher. The first class I ever taught as an assistant professor of English, nobody gave me any assistance in how to do anything, how to write up a syllabus, how many books to assign, what kinds of exams to give. The assumption was that if you go to graduate school and you get a PhD, that somehow you're competent to teach, and that's not necessarily true at all. Charles, I'm glad you agree. And so I think it probably, well, not probably, it makes a lot of sense for us to come up with some ideas about how universities and colleges might get better instructional results and learning outcomes by taking a look at these issues. I was struck when I was looking at some materials that were prepared by DeVry University, that every time they hire a new faculty member, they give new faculty members a binder about 3 inches thick with all kinds of information and all kinds of suggestions about how to become effective instructors. And it occurred to me very quickly, well, DeVry is a for-profit institution. They have a vested interest in keeping their students in school and in class and paying their fees. And we don't pay nearly enough attention to that in more traditional institutions. So I would hope that this would be an issue that a number of people would be interested in helping us with. I see some nodding of heads.
Raymond, a real good friend of mine retired as a high school teacher, and he told me that in 25 years of teaching, he never took nor taught a class that there wasn't someone asleep, except for parachute packing school in Fort Benning, Georgia. Everybody wants to know why you do that, how do you do that, what happens if you don't do that, how do I do that right? So he said he learned right off the bat real quick. Teach something people want to learn.
Or teach it in a way that people want to learn it. Yeah, you could. No, I think that that's a critical issue. I don't think there's any doubt that we can help make instruction in higher education much more competent than it currently is, and help it yield much better learning outcomes. It's interesting to me, and I've said this point before, that we hammer away at the K-12 sector because we say that we point out that their graduation rates 4 years later of ninth graders is somewhere in the realm, depending on the study or the metric that you use, somewhere in the range of 55% in urban districts and for certain groups and so forth. That's exactly what the 6-year graduation rate in Texas is, about 55% for students in baccalaureate programs. And I think if we're unsatisfied with that result in high school, I think we should be equally dissatisfied with those kinds of outcomes in higher education. And I think improving instructional quality would be a big step in helping us raise those numbers. Clearly, the legislature and the governor's office are very interested in raising those numbers, and so I think it's something we should take a look at with colleagues, for example, in the Council of Chancellors and Presidents and the Association of Community College Presidents, something we should take a very close look at. Any comments or questions? Let's, if not, let's turn to the next item on the agenda, agenda item 9, Perkins State Plan, which is an action item. Sharon Jackson, would you come up again and explain to us what we need to do?
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, I'm Sharon Jackson.
And Karen Batchelor, TEA.
You have before you the Perkins State Plan. Let me just kind of go through some things, summarize some activities that have happened over the last several months, and give you some direction as a council on what you can do to help move this plan along in the process. The Perkins Law requires that each state plan conduct public hearings, and that's exactly what we've been engaged in the last couple of months, and opportunities for stakeholders to give input. And the plan itself actually lists all kinds of stakeholders. So that's what we've been trying to do when we went throughout the state holding those public hearings. Those meetings were posted in the Texas Register in September, and the actual plan itself is a unified plan for secondary and post-secondary career and technical education. It includes all the components as outlined in the state plan guide issued by USDE and OVE in March of 2007. The 6 public hearing meetings ended on October the 25th. We actually ended the Texas Register posting last Friday, so we've been on very, very tight timelines. Public comments were summarized, and I believe you got those also. Okay, good. Those responses were noted, and edits were made in the plan, and we actually took all the positive comments that we heard throughout the public hearings, and there were approximately 100 people that attended the public hearings across the state. We also got written comments that we incorporated as appropriate. With the plan itself, there are 11 attachments that were posted on the draft state plan that will be on the state plan that were actually submitted in our transition plan. There were 2 kind of, issues that we had to work through. One of them, we worked with the Texas Workforce Investment Council, the Texas Workforce Commission, the Coordinating Board, and the Texas Education Agency staff met yesterday on high wage. And on page 16 of your plan, I'd like to note that the first and second bullets there, you can see the high wage defined as occupations that exceed the median weekly wage threshold for all learners. For Texas, currently that figure is $13.19 per hour, or $27,443 annually. And high wage for Texas is defined as an occupation growing faster than average for all occupations in 2004 through 2014 projections, which is 17.6%. And that was reflective of a consensus of the group that met yesterday, that be reflected in the plan. The other kind of concern that we've had as stakeholders in this is keeping the funding split as 60% TEA, 40% higher ed, and we continue to do that as we have in the past several years. What we're going to do is monitor our progress and our procedures that we have in place in terms of our Chief Texas, our all of the efforts that we're doing at secondary and post-secondary to see exactly where we are and fitting those, as we met earlier, fitting those pieces of the puzzle together to actually see where that funding needs to fall within the next 5 years. Sure. We have a lot of work to do in 5 years.
Sure. Let me ask you a question in terms of the split. Given that we know that a very large percentage, depending on the figures that you use, Larry, I've seen 2/3 of all jobs created in the future will require some form of post-secondary education. I've seen figures as high as 80%. Does it make sense that split should be 60-40 TEA and 40% higher education if most CTE work will be conducted at the post-secondary level?
Well, what we have, the definition that we come up with, and we're basing our definition and our definitive kind of 60-40 split on the FTE, the contact hours. And those contact hours for the coordinating board or 81 million and 178 million for public ed, which actually brings out the percentage to 31% coordinating board, 69% TEA. But we're willing to keep that as a 60-40 percentage over the next 5 years.
So it's based on historical contact hours being provided. I mean, I think what Raymond is asking, should there be consideration of what the trend is, where the contact hours, where the emphasis should be in the future, and not based on just historical what's been provided. Is that
sure?
Yeah, my point is that if the field of career and technical education is going to require more and more sophisticated skills, which means to say that the primary responsibility for finishing off career and technical education will devolve to two-year institutions, both community colleges and our technical schools in the state. Doesn't it make sense that we would transfer some of the larger portion of those funds to higher education? I'm not talking about this isn't a coordinating board issue, because this is pass-through money for us. We don't keep it, so I'm not trying to hoard some money for the benefit of the coordinating board. I'm just simply trying to I'm asking the question: does the split reflect the nature and the centrifugal point for career and technical education nowadays?
Well, and I guess my response to that would be, given the articles and the research that we've seen and the work that we have to do at the secondary level, I could probably argue that we have just as much work to do to get those kids ready to even be prepared for entry-level courses into college and for the workforce. And we can certainly begin to look at what that looks like over the next few years.
If we're defining college readiness and workforce readiness as the same thing, then that suggests that, once again, that the real heavy lifting in career and technical education would occur in community colleges, because the fields are simply becoming more sophisticated.
Sure. Okay, we can take that information to our state board. Be more than happy to.
Commissioner, I've got a question regarding on page 16. You addressed the issue of the comment that was made by forget which, the Austin hearing regarding the definition of high wage being $27,443 annually. Is that term used in this document, this definition, for alignment with other documents that the state is working with, anything that comes out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics or the Workforce Commission? Because high wage, 27,000 doesn't seem like a high wage from the private sector. And if we're telling students, if you follow this track, you can get high wage, and by high wage we mean $27,400, I think we're being misleading.
And I'll let Karen address that, because we do have a formula that we use.
Right. Well, I may have to get Larry to help me describe that, but the Perkins Law very specifically says that programs should be based on high skill, high wage, or high demand. And so the high wage component is really a threshold, sort of the low end. And the discussion that we had, and we met, as Sharon said, yesterday afternoon with staff from the Workforce Commission, the Workforce Investment Council, Higher Ed, and TEA, was the small section below that first bullet that says annually the state will specify a wage threshold that shall serve as the minimum wage level in determining program offerings that meet the high wage definition. In other words, that's sort of a moving target, but communities, when they're trying to determine what programs to offer, should look at that and use that as sort of the very minimum level for even considering offering programs. Certainly, you know, programs that support the governor's 6 industry clusters for economic development should be a priority for communities as well.
I think Anson Green is here, so Anson, if you can, is Anson still here? Did he did. I think you have the targeted, you have demand occupations, but then there's another step because there are demand occupations that in service industries that pay a little more than minimum wage, but targeted, you take the next step and then it's targeted demand occupation. So if I'm not mistaken, I don't have to look at them. So, I believe you can take the next step and limit what you're going to do, and actually within those demand occupations target the ones that you want to go and not be as broad. I know our local workforce boards, they identify with our LMI, our labor market information people, what the demand occupations are, and then within that, because they don't have enough money to do all of them, and then they refine that, and they narrow it down to targeted demand occupations, and with the 6 industry clusters as the governor's office has identified as the primary ones. So I'm not real sure. I'll have to look at it again if you can take that next cut. I'm just not that familiar with what the Perkins Law. I know how on the WIA side when you do your state plan, but
right.
Lee's hiding back there.
Well, and one of the things that LMCI promised to do was to provide this data on a regional, so that those local workforce development boards could use not necessarily this state average based on BLS criteria, but what works in their region. Certainly, the Dallas area, that threshold is going to be much higher and should be much higher than in some other parts of the state.
I'll tell you what we will have. The TWIC has engaged Ray Perryman to conduct an update, if you will, on and defining what the state's regional economies are. And that, I think, has got a fairly short fuse on it. December, January, something like that, have a report. Maybe too late here, but it's certainly informational-wise we'll be providing it, statewide to all of our partners. But for next year, that may be something to look at for this plan.
Well, and I'm not sure that specificity belongs in the state plan, but as the resources to provide to regional workforce development and communities, secondary and post-secondary education, as a community, they make those decisions as to what programs to offer.
I'd like to follow up with a question in relation to assessors. You use the passive voice here. It says high wage is defined. Who's defining high wage?
I think that's the Bureau of Labor Statistics definition.
So, according to the Bureau, that means that, for example, if the median weekly wage is $27,443, at $27,444 is a high wage job?
Not at all. That's really the base or the beginning point for considering programs that lead to occupations above that.
That's the floor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's a floor, but I have the same concern that Society does. I think that the notion of high wage as being defined as anything over that amount sends a very discouraging message to young people about how we define high wages, prosperity, affluence, a decent salary. I'd hate to think that we're telling people that making $28,000 a year is a high wage job.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we're saying that, and maybe we can work on the language that says that this is, according to these statistics, this is just the floor, and we definitely want to have kids in those high-skilled, high-wage jobs.
Is there any reason that we're using the Bureau of Statistics definition for high wage? Can we make up our own state definition of what a high wage is? Or is it more complicated than that?
I don't have that expertise, sorry.
What if you defined high wage out, and I'm not recommending this, I'm just suggesting going in this direction. What if you said a high wage job is one that places you in the top third, top quarter, top quintile of all wage earners?
And that would go, if you provided a range with that, that would, I think, make the point that I'm trying to make, is that if it's a floor, then let's put a range on it so the students will know that this is the minimum I can expect, but the upside is significantly more than what we're showing.
Well, actually, the plan for an individual tied to whatever occupation, let's say they're going to get into an LPN program that would lead to an RN program that may lead to something. So it can actually be the first step of a three-step career. So it may be an individual that's now a technician of some sort in a hospital that would like to be an RN, but in the interim is going to be an LPN or whatever the process goes through that would qualify. And at the providers, actually, the waiting list is, there's not enough money to near about serve everyone that's in there. I think what probably we may want to look at is that's the qualification for the providers to be able to provide services. They have to provide services that at least start you at that, but that's not the definition of necessarily high wage.
Correct.
It could be the first step or a 10-year career or something like that.
Right.
But
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to know, the purpose of this document is to get the message out. Then I just ask that we make sure that we're getting the right message. And if 27,000 is the starting point to become a physician, then I think we need to say that this is the first of many phases. if a candidate coming into school sees, or if a counselor uses this document, again, the message needs to be clarified.
And it comes over, and I see on the next page, that leads to employment in high skill, high wage, or high demand occupations. And again, I think that at the local level, they're able to narrow this even more by determining what they want to target as their professions.
Right, and if you look at the sentence above the first bullet, the definition was really used just as a benchmark for looking at those state-recognized programs of study, which include secondary and post-secondary education, to make sure that we weren't developing any programs of study that lead to low-wage professions.
I'll get you some more information about the BLS definition and how I'll get our labor guys. As a matter of fact, it probably wouldn't be a bad little dog and pony to bring and let my LMI guys come and talk about that.
Well, and Rich actually wrote this portion of the language. So.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I read that, I had exactly the same reaction to that bullet that Cesar did.
So maybe we can add some language that talks about, even though this is a threshold, that this is just the first of many phases of a career over a period of time, that high end, that high wage could be, and then list that high wage for an example.
Yeah, as I said, it could be just a standing in the overall. If you look at the family levels of per capita and family income, and you could simply define jobs, well-paying, high wage, depending on where they fit within quartiles or smaller increments.
Yeah, and this, it's a little discerning, but when you're talking about students pursuing a career or an occupation, you're not really talking about a family, you're talking about just an individual wage.
Other comments about the report? I understand that by statute, this council must advise the State Board of Education when it acts as a State Board for Career and Technical Education on, quote, the development and updating of the state plan for career and technical education. So we've offered some comments about this. I applaud the fact that this document clearly tends to align itself with our college readiness standards, with closing the gaps. With I noticed how many times there's a reference to rigor in career and technical education, which is obviously something that we want. Do we need to take are there any other suggestions for revisions or any other comments about this document that you all will transmit to the State Board for us? Do we have to put something in? Would you prefer that we put something in writing, or are you comfortable just with our oral comments? And
I'm comfortable with the oral comments, but if you prefer to put something in writing, that's...
What's the will of the council?
I'll be glad to try to provide some clarification. I'll get our Rich Fischel to provide some clarification and work with you on what your limitations are in the grant. That's what it has to. I'm not familiar with enough on the state plan requirements. If it says you have to use BLS and you have to use their definition, a lot of our programs, that's what you have to do. But I'll get that to add, and if we've got that flexibility, I think we'd like to be able to demonstrate that there are other jobs out there that pay. That we would consider higher pay. I mean, a higher paying job than the 27,000 threshold. Yeah,
that takes care of my concerns.
Good. Any other comments about this Perkins plan? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item 10 is questions and comments on written update reports, and there are no written reports for consideration today. So we now have agenda item 11, announcements by any members of the council. Larry, you made an announcement about your workforce development conference next week.
Yeah, I get a commission off everything you spend in the Galleria. Home down.
Any other comments?
I will share a comment that came from the state P-16 meeting that we had. Was that June? June. For the first time in Ector County schools, we're going to have counselors hired whose job it is to advise students about college and about going to college and about college preparation. And we're taking the Go Centers to another level. And that conversation started at the state P-16 meeting. So I want you to know you're making an impact, you're making a difference, so let's continue in that regard.
Well, that's a good announcement. We got any others that can top that one? Well, there's nothing sacred about. We had a 3-hour block of time for the meeting, but there's no reason why we can't adjourn early. I want to make one comment. There is already a distinct difference in these meetings with the addition of Cesar and today Greg and when Melody is able to participate fully, we look forward to that. But already I feel that the discussions are richer and fuller as a result of your presence on the council. So thank you very much for your participation, and I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.